Hi everyone, welcome to Psych 484. Hope you guys are doing well. We are now officially over halfway through the semester, and I know that this is the time of the semester when things get really busy and the holidays are coming up, and we have a lot of cool things to be looking forward to. So I want to just continue to encourage you guys to keep up the hard work, keep turning in your assignments, keep diving into the material as much as you can. I think having some, scheduling out specific times for this class will help keep you on track with what you need to complete. So I looked at the syllabus and what our remaining schedule kind of is for the rest of the semester. And at this time, if we include what we have to do this week, guys are working on, there are only 4 quizzes left to complete. There are only 6 discussions left to complete. And then we also have our final paper. So things are really dwindling down. A lot of you guys have made some really good progress, and I had a chance to review all of your paper topic submissions last week, so you all have received some feedback on that, and you have come up with some really great ideas. I'm excited to see how you're going to continue to develop those ideas and integrate the theories we've talked about, but there's a lot of variability across topic ideas and experiences, and I think that's really cool. It shows how these theories of motivation are really versatile and apply in multiple situations across a variety of occupational settings. So I'm really excited to see where you guys are going with that. So I wanted to just take a little bit of time and talk about control theory. I know that this theory has a different feel than some of the other theories we've talked about so far in this class. So control theory really has a feeling of being mechanistic. It's very mechanical feeling. Even the terms we use don't really feel psychological, right? And I think this comes through in the fact that control theory hasn't been applied as much in psychological research. We haven't really applied it to people the way we have some of these other theories that we've covered. So I think there's been a little bit of debate in psychology regarding the utility of control theory. For example, Locke and Latham, who are theorists and researchers who helped found goal-setting theory, really were some of the first researchers of goal-setting theory, have kind of come out against control theory vehemently and think that it's not useful, it doesn't apply to humans. Alternatively, we've read this week in the lesson some ways that control theory has been tested, or different components of control theory have been tested, though it certainly would benefit from more research from psychologists. So I know some of the terms might seem a little strange, but I think so far you guys have done a good job working through the material. If you haven't done your discussion post yet, I encourage you to hit the discussion board, make sure you respond to at least 2 of your classmates, and get your own post up there by Monday. I think something that is interesting about control theory is that we haven't really tested the full model, and but I do think it makes intuitive sense about how control theory works. And it's important to remember that this process isn't one that employees take time, or individuals really take time and think out. So a lot of the processes involved with the comparator and feedback and input, this is all sort of happening internal to the individual, and they might not even be really cognizant of the fact that they are going through this process. So it sort of explains why behavior occurs, but it doesn't necessarily mean people are really sitting down and explicitly thinking about each part of control theory. So it's sort of a process that happens maybe to some extent unconsciously or subconsciously. And control theory is a little bit different because it's not just a cognitive theory, which we've been talking about some cognitive theories of psychology and motivation that kind of touch on how people think about motivation and how motivation is affected by our own perceptions. Control theory is also a theory of cognitive-based theory, but one that also includes emotions. So the premise is, depending on your results and depending on your performance, that's going to elicit an emotion. So if you have reached your goal, that elicits pride or perhaps happiness. But if you don't meet your goal, that might elicit shame or frustration or disappointment. And so it includes these emotional reactions that we have to whether or not we've met our goals. So I think that's an important piece. Might also tie into social cognitive theory, which we talked about last week. And this idea, it's not just one thing that's affecting motivation, but multiple factors that can affect whether or not we are motivated. And in this sense, emotion also plays an important role, which isn't something that we've really covered very much in this class, is that role of emotion in motivation. So I do want to just take a few minutes and review some of the key terms from this week. I had a few questions from students in the class feeling a little uncertain about some of the concepts. So control theory really begins with an input. So what we have is, from control theory, this idea, wiggled my computer there, is a sensor. And so this is the input signal. This kind of gets, for example, if the end goal here is to complete a final paper in this class, and I send you out an email today reminding you about some deadline or reminding you about the final paper, that could be the input. So getting the email from me kind of triggers a sensor in you, and it gets the motivational process started. So that kind of is the input signal that you get. So let's say you have this final paper to write, and the goal is to write a 10-page final paper. So you get the email from me, that gets the process going. The next thing that we have is this idea of a comparator. And the comparator is sort of your progress towards your goal, or the status of your goal. So I tell you you have a final paper and it's 10 pages long. You look at your progress and think, oh, I only have 2 pages written, or I have 8 pages written, but that's kind of where are you at presently. Then the next thing that we consider is this idea of the reference standard. And the reference standard is the baseline goal, or the standard to which you are comparing your own progress. So if the goal is to write a 10-page final paper and you only have 2 pages written, you can compare the difference, right? So you have you have 2 pages written, but it needs to be 10. So this idea that you have the comparator, which is your own progress, and then the reference standard is where you'd like to be. So what happens when there's a discrepancy? You haven't written enough. Well, that's when you could potentially get an error signal. And the error signal is when there's a difference between your current state and the end state. And this came through in the course lesson. There's an example about someone who has to make sales calls. So if you have to make a certain number of sales calls each week, or sell a certain number of dollars in revenue, you can compare how much you've currently done to whatever that standard is. Then at the end of the week, they compile a report, and that could be your feedback that you get, the feedback that tells you whether or not you've met the goal or not. If you've met the goal, so your comparator matches the reference standard, then you've achieved the goal. And in this case, retirement happens. This is when you no longer need to continue working towards that goal. If you had a goal to reach $10,000 in sales and you didn't, you came up short, you get that feedback from your supervisor, from the report, and you understand you didn't meet the goal, then it starts the process again. And then you start again until you meet the goal. So I hope that kind of helps just review some of the course concepts, but if at any time you have questions, please reach out to me. We can certainly review either during my office hours, or we can review via email. I'm happy to help. So that's kind of a review of control theory. And again, some of these topics are a little trickier. They started out easier, I think, with needs-based theories, but they've become more complex, and it might take a little more time to work through them. And again, these are theories that have developed over time, over a lot of time and a lot of research. So it might take you a little bit of extra time to work through them, and that is okay. But if you have questions, please let me know. And finally, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is your final paper. we just turned in, like I said, your topic submissions. So now your brain's starting to think about what you're going to cover for your paper. And many of you had some really great topic ideas. On the 31st of this month, so about 10 days from now, is the final, is the outline. So you have an outline due for this paper. And that is when you're going to take your topic and structure it so you kind of have a game plan for how you're going to attack the paper. But I have some other suggestions for you regarding how to write a paper for this class. Just some tips to get you thinking. So I have this idea. See the APA paper. The first thing I want to talk to you about is starting early. So it's mid-semester, you guys have a lot going on. It might, you look at the due date and the paper itself is due December 5th. So that seems like kind of far away. You have lots of time, but don't procrastinate. Don't wait until the last minute. Start working now, even if you're just doing a little bit at a time. And so that is my tip too, is not only start early, but also work a little bit at a time. And I think that outline is really going to help you to do this. So maybe on Monday, you write the introduction and you leave that. And then you're busy and you have work and life. So on Friday, you write Theory 1 and you incorporate Theory 1 into your project. And so maybe just each day making a little more progress or sectioning it out. So you don't want to sit down and write the entire paper in a day. That's when mistakes happen or mental fatigue, and need some time to work through the material. So I encourage you, if you have that outline, it basically breaks down your work for you. So you spend a day working on a little bit over time, and that'll help you get the paper done in a timely fashion by meeting the deadlines, and hopefully you don't get to December 4th and you're crunching and rushing to get it done. I know this sounds like a tall task. I have been in your shoes. I'm currently working on my dissertation, and this is the same process that I use, is to try and make a little progress each time or each day. That way you're not doing everything in one day. Might reduce some of the mental stress associated with writing a paper. Also, I recommend that you log your references as you go. So if you have used goal setting theory and you are citing Locke and Latham, and you include that in your paper, you type out the in-text citation, jump to your reference section and write out the reference right at that time. The minute you include it in text, go back and write out the full reference in the reference section. This will save you from citing and then at the end having to go back to your paper and look for the references and look them up and what year was it? Where did I find that? So I really think this will help you not only in this class, but in other classes. It is such a time saver at the end. So if you use an in-text citation, immediately jump to the reference section and add it. Then you're building your reference page as you go rather than having to do it at the end. I think a lot of people save that as like the final step, but it really can be a pain to do it that way. And as I mentioned, final paper is due December 5th. And what I would like to do is to give you guys an opportunity to seek some early feedback. So for those of you who work on the paper and have a draft of it, I'm happy to look at it prior to December 5th if you want some feedback on how to improve. If that's the case, I would like a copy of it by November 21st. If you can send me a copy by November 21st with any questions, I'll gladly give you feedback to help you. That'll give me enough time to review the paper and enough time to give it back to you in order for you to make edits and then submit it in its final version. So if you can submit by November 21st, I'll gladly look things over. If you want to submit the full paper, but you're really only concerned about one section, just let me know. Send me a note. Hey, can you look at my self-efficacy section? I want to make sure that I described this right. Or I'm a little bit concerned about XYZ. What do you think? And I'll be happy to give you more targeted feedback just on a specific section if that helps. But again, I think that deadline of November 21st will ensure I have enough time to really give your paper some thorough thought, and you will have enough time to make any corrections if they're needed. So really that is kind of the status on where we are at right now. I hope you guys did not get hit with the torrential rains that we got in State College. Things are pretty flooded today. I heard there were even some mudslides on the highway. So I hope all of you are safe and sound and at home and dry. And I hope that you have a nice weekend. Happy Friday. If there's anything at all I can do for you guys, reach out to me via email in Canvas, or we can also via Google Hangouts if you have specific questions that I can help answer for you. So way to go, guys. You're doing great. We're over halfway in the semester, and looking forward to another great week ahead, okay? So I will talk to you later. Take care, everyone.